Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Pauline Teunissen and I'm an artist from the Netherlands. In this video I will show you how I fill my art toolbox palette with gouache paints. So last Christmas I was gifted this Art Toolkit Folio palette, and it's a very lightweight palette with magnetic pans, and I am planning to take it with me on my next travels to France and Italy. So I thought it would be nice to fill the palette with some paints and show you what it all looks like and what my favorite colors are. So I've had a few palettes, lots of palettes actually. This is one of them. I filled it with gouache paints as well, but it's a bit small and I really like these colors, but I would really like to have a more varied palette. This one is one I filled a while ago and I really love it, but the pans are very shallow and the paint is sort of chipping and falling out. So I'm going to use this just in my studio and I will not take this on my travels. It is a lovely palette though and I really love the color, so I'm sort of trying to duplicate this a bit and seeing if I can make a new palette. So this is the palette. It's a very small palette actually. It has tiny pans which you can put in there. They have different shapes, bigger ones that are rectangular, and then the more longer shaped ones, sort of half pans, and really tiny ones, the really tiny square ones. Oh, sorry, I said rectangular, but I meant square ones. Sorry, English is not my native language. So I'm trying to figure out how they all would fit in, how many bigger pans I would need, what would be the best composition to get them all to fit in well, and well, in the way that I can take with me lots and lots of different colors. Because if you want to draw and paint botanical subjects, then lots of color. Basically, you need the rainbow because the world is filled with rainbow colors. So yeah, I'm putting it all in there and also thinking about what kind of colors do I need. I definitely need lots of greens. I definitely need a few earthy colors. And I'm going to fill the palette with gouache paints. Gouache is one of my favorite materials. It's very versatile. My most preferred brands are Holbein, the one that I'm holding now, and Royal Talens and Winsor & Newton. And it's such a versatile material because you can really water it down and use it like a watercolor, but also use it very opaque, which is a lovely way to work. I made a bit of a messy swatch card with all my colors, which is not the best, but it does the job. And I'm going to pick out different colors, but maybe I should look at my sketchbooks first. And what do I need? I definitely need greens, maybe a light green and a middle green, because those are colors I use very regularly in my work. And definitely also a darker green for all those dark shadows. A white, definitely a white for all of the highlights, which I can mix. But maybe also a more bluer color. Yeah, lots and lots of greens basically. Yeah. I use mossy green colors a lot, I guess, because those are much more saturated, and also purpley reds. I definitely need some pinks because there are lots and lots of pink flowers, and maybe also some bright reds. Here you can also see that I use very light green as well. And then also some coral peachy colors, which I use for the more orangey kind of flowers and plants. A color that I use a lot is a rusty color, as like the color of a fox, but also a blue, a smalt blue is one of my favorite colors. And as you can see from the swatches below, a rainbow kind of palette. I need a light yellow, which would form a nice base layer, I think, and also some browns, which I can mix with red to make all like these earthy colors. I was talking about a rusty color before, and yeah, foxes. I draw foxes a lot, but maybe also for birds. That would also be really nice. And a light grey color, which you can find in the feathers of birds, and definitely some browns. This is actually just me looking at some more colors. I need reds. I am listing the rainbow, right? I'm thinking I also need some purples. Yeah, I need something of everything basically. But let's pick the most beautiful colors to work with. I wanted to color swatch them first, but then I realized I should sort them out first and just see which colors are the best. Maybe I have some colors that are really similar. So I just looked at my swatch card and tried to match them and think, okay, I need, especially when it comes to greens, I need a range of colors, so I don't need very similar colors. I want probably lots of blues, which I can mix as well. I want a lot of reds because I can mix them with white and make some nice pinks, because as you can see, I don't have a very pinky color in my collection at the moment, and I don't want to mix them in the pans, but I want to mix them on my palette. So I'm just going to pick them out as they are, put them in the pans, and then I can mix as I go along and match them to anything that I want to paint. As you can see, I have a lot of rusty brown colors, which are quite similar, so I have to swatch them to see which one is best. I love them all, but you don't need them all in the same palette. So when I picked out the colors I like best, I made color groups to see if I have enough of each color or if I need another one. For instance, I'm wondering if the greens are maybe a bit too much or are maybe in the same group, that they are too similar. So I'm going to swatch them and compare them to each other to see if I need to eliminate one. I'm also thinking of adding two watercolors. One is a blue one, Verditer Blue, which would be lovely for skies, which is much more transparent, and the other one is greenish yellow, both from Holbein. But the greenish yellow might be similar to the olive green, so I have to swatch them to know for sure. And looking at this palette, I might need a sap green or something like a more grassy green, so I'm adding that. And yeah, I have to swatch it to see what is best. Maybe I need a purple as well. I was talking about purples, wasn't I? Yeah, let's do that. When it came to swatching, I didn't need to swatch them all. I only swatched the one that I thought might be very similar, like this Royal Talens gouache. And I also wanted to compare the Dayflower Blue and the Verditer Blue from Holbein, which you can see are very similar indeed. The Cork Yellow is very similar to the greenish yellow, so I think I'm going to leave the watercolor version out. And I might add the Seedling Green, because that is a much different color green than the rest. And then I found out that the Deep Rose from Royal Talens and the Safflower Red from Holbein are much too similar, so I had to leave one out, and I think I prefer the Safflower Red. Also, as I said before, there are many similar brownish, reddish colors from Holbein, so I have to choose some of them. I am going to go for the biggest range, I guess, where there's a dark, a light, and a mid-tone. To fill the pans, I used some vegetable glycerin and I stirred everything with a toothpick. The vegetable glycerin makes sure that basically the paint doesn't crack as much, which I actually found it eventually did, but I don't really mind it. If the pans are deep enough, they don't fall out. The color I start with is a Holbein Cork yellow, which is a very light greenish yellow, which is lovely as a base color for leaves. And as you can see, I'm filling it with the vegetable glycerin now. I'm using a pipette, which I just saved from, I think, some vitamins. I don't know for sure, but yeah, that's really helpful because otherwise it's really messy. The whole process was actually really messy for me. I don't like to get my hands dirty, but they got pretty dirty. So you have to just keep that in mind and just keep going. You have to mix it really well for it to become like a clear color again, and put the paint like in all the corners. I was really scared I would overfill them and like the paint would overflow, but it didn't really do that. And when it dried, as you can see later on, it also dries up a bit, because the moist goes out of the paint, then it's a lot shallower in the pans. The next color is an elm green, which is one of my favorite colors. It's such a nice color for leaves, and it isn't too... Most colors that you find in a tube are so bright, and leaves in nature mostly aren't that saturated. You always need like a little bit of red in the green to make it more natural looking. The next color is a Holbein Pine Tree Green, which is the loveliest dark color. And as you can see, this already makes a very nice trio, like a light, a mid-tone, and a dark, which I can use to, well, basically for everything. I do need a more bluer green probably, and a bit of a more green with a more punchy color, which is the seedling color I chose. I'm very happy that I added that. And then on to the blues. I am choosing a smalt blue, which is one of my favorite colors because it is a very nice blue, but it also has a tiny bit of purple in it, which is ideal for flowers because it's never like the true blue. I don't know. It's mostly with flowers, it's a more purplish blue than like a cobalt blue or something. So this is why I chose the small blue, and it's also great for skies. It's like just a lovely color. So I'm putting it in a big pan and I'm really happy with it. The next color is a Mysotis blue from Holbein, which is such a beautiful color. It's lovely and light. You can make fluffy clouds with it, but it's also very good for the feathers of birds. Just, it's such a pretty color. I love it. And you can see I'm adding some more of the glycerin. It's supposed to keep the paints wetter as well, but in my experience, it doesn't really do that. It just sort of cracks it a bit less. But you could also just leave the glycerin out and just put them in the pans as they are, because they're still lovely to use. And if it's a bit cracked, that doesn't really matter because you reactivate them with water anyway. Next up in the big pans is Amber from Holbein, which is that lovely orange rusty color for like autumn leaves, the fur of a fox or another animal. It's a color I use a lot. It could also be used for the bark of a tree. It's a really versatile color, so I highly recommend it. A very important one is white. I don't use the white as it is usually, but I do use it to mix my pinks, which is, you need a lot of white for pinks, and it's also very good to make like a sagey color with green or like the lighter greens. Basically every pastel color you need white for to mix it, so it goes into a big pan. And then I'm thinking, shall I fill the bigger pan with a dark yellow or a lighter yellow? I'm not sure. So I am filling the smaller pan, the half pan, with an ash green from Holbein, which is also one of the loveliest color. I think it's It's more of a bluish green, and you can, if you mix it with white, it becomes like a sage color, but it's also a very nice base layer for a shadow color, like a shadow green. Yeah, it's a lovely color. And I then decide to give red one of the more prominent pans because it's a great color to mix with white. You need a lot of white for your pinks, but yeah, this is just a lovely red color. It's not too warm, not too cold. It's basically the best color to paint a poppy flower. And I use it a lot. You can make some lovely, with the smalt blue, you can make some lovely purples. It's a beautiful color. In one of the half pans, I decided to fill with Peony from Holbein, which is a sort of grape color, red wine color, which is lovely. Also good because there's more blue in there. It's a good shadow color as well. Yeah, I haven't used it because it's a new color, so I haven't used it a lot, but I'm very excited to use it. The one that I didn't want to include at first, but I decided I needed, is a seedling green from Holbein, which is a very punchy, grassy green. Sorry, it's a bit out of the video at the moment. It comes in really soon. There it is. And yeah, I don't need this as much, so I will put it in a smaller pan and see how much I use it. If I use it more, I can always award it a bigger pan. Bellflower color, which is, as the name suggests, perfect for bellflowers. Yeah, this is a new color as well for me, which I'm not sure if I'm going to use it as much, but I really like it, so I'm just giving it a bigger pan, giving it some space, so hopefully I will use it more, because I do think, especially in botanical palettes, this might be a very nice color to use. And then Dayflower Blue, which is a color I used to use a lot for skies, not as much for like flowers and plants, but it is really nice for birds, I thought, so I might include it. I'm really sorry again that it's out of the range of the video again, but it will. Yes, there it is again. Please hold it up a bit higher. Thank you. Yes, thank you. So yeah, it is a lovely color. It's a nice mid-tone as well, so I'm including it, and hopefully I will use it a lot. And I'm rearranging the pans a bit so I can see which of the colors need a bigger spot than others. So I decide I need the Verditer Blue because it's such a nice light color that can have like a nice transparent wash, but I don't need it as much, so I'm going to give it a very tiny spot in my palette. Let's see what else. Yes, Vermillion, which is a very warm color, so you can use it to make really nice oranges for calendula flowers, or like very bright flame red flowers. It's like the best pop of color that you can give your painting, so I'm including it. And this is already looking like a very nice palette to me. I could do with these colors, and it would already be a very great one. But we might need some yellow and some brown. I'm still thinking about the yellow. Do I need my canola yellow in a very large pan because I really love yellow, or does the Naples yellow need to be in a big pan? So I'm still skipping it, and I'm going to put the Iron Oxide Red in a half pan, which is also a very nice color. It could be like the shadows on fur, or a more reddish bark color, autumn leaves, a toadstool mushroom color. Yeah, this is a great color as well. Mixing, mixing, mixing. Make sure it is all mixed really well. And then we can move on to the next color. Let's see, what else do we have? We have some grays left. No, I'm finally going for the yellows. And in the end, I decide, or am I going to put the ochre in first? What am I going to do? No, I'm going for the canola yellow, and I want to do it in the bit pan, but then I don't. I'm putting it in the half pan because it's such a bright color. I'm thinking I'm only going to need it for like the stamens in the middle of the flower. So maybe it's like more of an accent flower, an accent color. And so it's going into a half pan. I'm hoping this is the right decision. I'm not sure, we'll see. This is the Naples yellow from Royal Talens, which is a beautiful light color. And it's going into the big pan. It might also be a nice like underlayer color for a painting. And that's actually why I chose it in the end to be in the big pan. So let's hope and pray. I'll let you know if this was the right decision. And then I'm putting in light ochre, which is very similar to the amber one, but it's a bit more yellow. So I decided in the end that I would include it because, well, I really like these colors. It might be a very nice mixing color, so this is why I chose to include it. So now there are only the tiny, tiny pans left, and I'm going to fill them with the colors I use, well, least. This is a very nice coral color, which can be paired really well with the Vermillion or the Safflower red. So it's called Pale Coral, by the way, from Holbein. But I don't use it as much, so that's why I'm giving it a smaller pan. I am putting in the gray number 1, which I think is a very nice base layer for the plumage of a bird, like the wing of a bird. Some shadows as well might be really nice, like light shadows. And then the darker gray, which I'm now forgetting what the name was, or is it ash blue? Maybe it's ash, I think it's ash blue actually. It's a bluish gray, a grayish blue, one way or the other. And then a bark brown, also from Holbein, and a blue black, which is a very dark color. It's a bit like Payne's grey, but it's a very rich dark color, so I really like that. I prefer it to real complete black, and this is a sepia, which I also prefer to a complete black. And you can also mix the two, the blue black and the sepia, to get a more interesting black than just like a lamp black or an ivory black. So this is why I use these, but I don't use them as much, so they're also going into a smaller pan. And that's the whole palette filled. I'm really happy with all the colors I picked. I hope they're all in the right order and in the right pans. But yeah, I let them dry for about 24 hours before I put them in the palette, because otherwise they might stick to my fingers. And I'm rearranging them a bit, as you can see. Most of them didn't crack. You can see the smalt blue did crack a lot, but that's okay. That's probably a color I will use a lot. So it'll be empty anyway really soon probably, and I'm trying to rearrange them sort of in the same color range, or like a way that they will be practical to use. And yeah, I'm really happy with the end result. Lastly, a tiny bit of mixing. What can we do with all of the colors? Well, you can make some lovely pinks with them, especially when you use the white. I'm now mixing it with peony, which makes a lovely rose color. And yeah, I think whenever you have a new palette, you just have to play around and mix like 1,000 colors, because you can. If you have only 3 colors, you can mix all of the colors. So with this palette, you can mix at least, well, you can mix them all basically. So this is the sagey color I was talking about. You can make them a cold version, a more warm version. Anything is possible basically. And if you add a tiny bit of red to your green, it becomes a little bit more brown, but also it becomes so much warmer. Pinkish, purplish colors. But also I'm going to think about how I'm going to use the Naples yellow, of which I now have a lot of, and I can make some lovely greens with that as well. As you can see, almost the same color as the sagey green I made with the ash green and the white, so that's interesting. Yeah, you can play around forever with this basically. I could do this all day, every day. I love to mix colors and see how I can get different shades, different varieties of colors, different tones. Yeah, it's lovely. So thank you for watching. If you are interested in seeing more of these kinds of videos, I have an online art club on Substack where I post lots of videos showing my art process and materials and how they work, techniques, but also we do some nice drawing sessions together. So if you would like to know more about that, please click on the link in the description. Thanks to all of my club members. It's so nice to have you here. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.